But we don't need anything. We don't need their fuel. We don't need their energy. We don't need their oil and gas. We don't need anything that they have.
Donald Trump has recently suggested Canada should become the 51st state, ahead of Washington, D.C. Initially, I dismissed his comments as sensationalist noise, attention-grabbing, but ultimately meaningless. But the more I thought about it, the more I realized that I had no idea what a union would mean for us Canadians. Now, let's be real here, Canada is not joining the US anytime soon. I highly doubt there being many Canadians who'd be super eager to adopt American politics, but an economic union similar to what they have in Europe, although still very unlikely, could technically occur. So in this video, I'm going to break down a recent blog post by Professor Hashmi on the theoretical macroeconomic effects a union would have and who would mainly benefit from it. So even though Canada is geographically larger than the United States, the US far surpasses Canada in both population and gross domestic product, which is found by adding up all the expenditures on goods and services purchased during a given year. In this hypothetical economic union, Canada would account for just 12.2% of the US population and only 9% of its GDP, ranking behind California, Texas, and New York, while being the most educated among the G7 nations. This stark imbalance means the economic impact of such a union would be felt far more acutely in Canada than the United States. That answers the first of two questions I proposed at the beginning of the video. But to determine the winners and the losers from an interaction as complex as this one, we need to simplify the question down a little bit. As a student who is about to enter the labor market, I'll be analyzing this problem from the three areas that I believe will be most relevant. While the quality of labor force measured by the average years of schooling or the proportion of university graduates is about 7.5% higher in Canada, the US has a 35% higher per capita GDP when adjusted for purchasing power. This highlights a significant gap in labor productivity between the two nations. Currently, many skilled Canadians choose to remain in Canada simply because obtaining a US green card is too difficult. If an economic union allowed for the unrestricted movement of people, many of these individuals would likely migrate south in pursuit of higher wages and better work opportunities. At the same time, Canada's most productive firms would benefit from access to a larger pool of highly skilled American workers, while less efficient firms would struggle to compete in this new environment. As a result, market consolidation would occur, with weaker firms exiting the industry. This pattern has already been observed in the European Union, where labor migration from east to west, south to north has reshaped economic landscapes. A similar shift could occur in North America, fundamentally altering Canada's labor market and business environment. Canada is the world's fourth largest crude oil producer, thanks to Alberta's oil sands, yet 97% of its oil exports go to the US. In many ways, Canada functions as a vast supplier of natural resources for America. An economic union could spur significant US foreign investment into Canada's resource sector, creating jobs and improving productivity for Canadian workers. Similar trends have been observed in resource-rich European countries following their integration into the EU. For instance, Poland's ascension in 2004 attracted substantial foreign direct investment into its coal and copper industries. Likewise, Bulgaria, Romania, Spain, and Slovakia all experienced similar inflows into their resource sectors post-EU integration. However, large-scale investment into Canada's resource sector would likely be controversial. A prime example of this is the Kinder Morgan Trans Mountain Pipeline, which the Canadian government had to buy after years of development delays caused by environmental opposition. While I care about the environment as much as the next person, this was a massive blunder in Canadian economic policy. Despite the United States being the global leader in technology, it doesn't hold the most patents. China does, while Canada doesn't even appear on the list. The number of successful patent applications is a key indicator of a country's innovation capacity. While the US population is only about 8 times larger than Canada's, it has been granted roughly 18 times more patents, highlighting a significant gap in innovation output. A union could strengthen technological collaboration, potentially boosting Canada's innovation capacity. Economists generally find a strong positive correlation between innovation and productivity, meaning closer integration with the US could lead to significant productivity gains for Canada. So after doing all this research and thinking about my findings, I've come to the conclusion that Canada's biggest issue is its low productivity. Despite having a very well-educated population and abundant natural resources, Canada hasn't created the right incentives to attract business investment, which is the real engine for long-term prosperity. In the state that we are currently in, an economic union with the US would be highly beneficial for Canada, driving greater competition for skilled workers, attracting substantial foreign investment, and fostering deeper technological collaboration. These three factors would likely lead to higher labor productivity and ultimately improve the standard of living for Canadians. However, there are other important factors that I haven't even touched on in this discussion, such as the impact a union would have on the Canadian dollar, as well as its effects on our monetary and fiscal policy. These are just a few examples that I can think of off the top of my head, but there are other just as fascinating rabbit holes that can go down in the future. But for now, thank you for taking the time to learn something new. If you enjoyed exploring the economics behind questions you've always wondered but never asked, please subscribe. I'll be uploading more regularly and I'd love to have you along for the journey. Anyways, I appreciate you for being here and I hope to see you again soon. See ya.